The Club World Cup and the Gold Cup head into the knockout rounds this weekend. The men's national team take on Costa Rica, and we talk to soccer disruptor Michael Hitchcock. That and more on Friday's Morning Kickaround. Good morning and welcome to the show. The sound of Franz Peckenpower means just one thing. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, the show where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's favorite country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr, American soccer commentator. He's Jason Davis, soccer radio extraordinaire. How you feeling here on Friday, Mr. Davis?
I am a radio. That's right. I'm a human radio. Jason Davis, human radio extraordinaire.
I'm good. Well. You radio well.
I radio good. When I get on the radio, I radio good. I'm excited for this show. I'm excited to talk to Michael Hitchcock, which is coming up in a bit. A guy who is invested in a number of semi-pro teams around the world, I think, not just in America. But we talked about Annapolis, where they got a huge number out for an Annapolis Blues match. They've got stuff going on in McKinney, Texas. Anyway, I'm excited to talk to Michael Hitchcock. There's a big weekend of soccer coming, Rob. It's going to be a good show.
Very excited for the show. And if you are watching this right now, and if you haven't hit subscribe, do so now. We're on our way past 2,600. I think 3,000 is the next goal, the next mantle.
I can see it right over the horizon there. 3,000. Let's go. Let's do the. Tell people if you're watching us now or you're watching us later, which kind of means you're watching us now. Tell somebody about Morning Kickaround so that they can subscribe, boost our numbers, get us out there. It's word of mouth, people. That is the thing that's going to help this show.
You can take it a step farther and become an MK Ultra. Only $3.99 a month gets you access to bonus content. The Discord server, we got some great conversations going, and then you get priority commenting. This is one of the new town squares for the American soccer conversation. You can get your comments up on the screen and make this a collaborative thing.
Absolutely. We want our MK Ultras to be here represented. Whether if you're an MK Ultra, you're in the Discord, and you want something that is behind me, and there's a lot of things you can't see because of the shot, tell me. I will send it to you. Just become a member, become a MK Ultra. I will send you stuff. It's almost like almost like your $3.99 a month is going to get you something free from the collection that I have put together over the course of 15 years. So help me declutter my house and get a cool soccer thing.
Yes, do so now. You can also support us on a thing called coffee.com/morning kickaround. There you can name your own donation. And I was thinking there you can set goals. Whoa, $500. Send it. Be like Mike.
Well, I think Mike is suggesting that. I don't think Mike is dropping us 500 to $5, but appreciate the sentiment. Absolutely. Yes. Coffee.
Yeah. And I was thinking about a goal we could set, because you could set, we have it as general costs of running the show. What if we put maybe we can have a meeting of the minds. We're talking about maybe meeting at a central location. Maybe we could put a goal of like maybe an X amount of dollars to get us to meet and do a show from a place, perhaps. Maybe even set a World Cup, maybe World Cup 2026, a fundraiser for World Cup 2026. And we can do a Morning Kickaround extravaganza next year if we raise some funds.
Absolutely do that. Let's set some goals. Let's get some people involved. Let's build this community. Jump in, be part of the look. And we are interactive, not just live on the show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but like if you're in the Discord or you want to throw in a comment and you have ideas for things that we can do, tell us. Tell us what you want us to talk about, because I think what is fascinating, what has been great about this show so far is that we've started to find out that there are things that people want to hear about that aren't getting covered out there in mainstream American soccer spaces, right? The Athletic only has so many people and they let Pablo Maurer go. That's a mistake. I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, you jump in here, tell us, like Michael Hitchcock talking about Annapolis and McKinney and all the clubs he's doing. We had the guys from Atletico Dallas on the show this week. We're uncovering those stories. We hope to get the guy from AV Alta. I'm excited for that, Rob. We've got to put that on the list of things as well.
Oh, without a doubt. And so we're talking about some bigger term things, but today on the show, we got Mr. Hitchcock, he's filling stadiums, summer leagues across the country. We got him at 10 a.m. And our final segment today at the end of the show, we want to know where you want his management group to build his next team. Put all of your suggestions in. Final segment of the show today. Where do you want a successful management group to put a team next? So we'll get to that at the end of the show. But
We want all suggestions, or like, a town that no one would think, hey, that could be a soccer town, because this is what we need to do. We're going to evangelize soccer in America. And I think, obviously we're taking a cue from Michael Hitchcock, but let's come up with some ideas here.
Yes, I am definitely looking forward to that conversation, but should we get into our long balls here this morning?
Let's go.
All right, Friday's long ball here on Morning Kickaround. Let's do it. This is the long balls on Friday, June 27th. My name is Robert. He's Jason. The return of Rose Lavelle on Thursday night. United States women's national team 4, Ireland 0. I knew somebody that gave United States a 3-goal buffer, and they still won the bet. But the highlight of the game is Rose Lavelle returning and scoring her first goal in about 2 years for the national team.
Yeah. Good stuff. I mean, I think it would have been easy to have kind of forgotten about Rose Lavelle. I don't know why anybody would forget about Rose Lavelle. And I did see a banner. I won't call it a tifo. I don't think it was that large. I saw a banner in the stands there in Colorado that was an eagle with the head of Rose Lavelle's dog. What kind of dog does she have? Like it's a bulldog or something. It's not the prettiest dog, but she loves this dog. It's become like an unofficial mascot of the U.S. Women's National Team when Rose is around. So this is an eagle with the head of her dog, and she's riding the eagle. It was quite the thing. Quite the celebration of Rose Lavelle being back in the U.S. Women's National Team. That Alyssa Thompson goal. I know we're talking about Rose, but that Alyssa Thompson goal, that was fantastic. Loved that. The U.S. women look good. They look good. I mean, Ireland is maybe not the toughest opponent, but they will be physical. They'll make it tough on you. And I think they learned a lesson, because I saw some quotes that said their coach wanted to kind of play with the United States. They didn't want to sit in a shell. They didn't want to just bunker and park the bus. What did they end up doing, Rob? By the end of the game, 4-0, they're like, we don't want this to be any worse. Park the bus. Park the bus.
Park it. So the scoring went as so. We got Avery Patterson. Not super familiar with that name. I know there were some debutantes in this lineup getting the scoring early in the 18th minute, and Sam Coffey on the stroke of halftime, deep into first half stoppage time, made it 2. And then in the second half, Rose Lavelle getting that goal to make it 3 in the 53rd, and then Alyssa Thompson with the banger to make it 4. Some subs came in. You got some new names and some familiar ones. You got Jordan Bugg. I'm not familiar with her. She came in the second half, as is Linda Biendolo, Emma Sears, and Yasmin Ryan. So Emma Hayes continuing her experimentation, but also getting results at the same time.
Well, keep in mind, Lynn Biendolo is Lynn Williams,
right?
With a new name. I mean, that's just a thing we all have to kind of do. We remember that sometimes players change names, particularly in the women's game. The debutante is a thing. Emma Hayes gave a lot of praise to Sam Coffey after this game. She said, I can't believe she wasn't a U.S. international before I showed up. She thinks she's one of the best midfielders in the world. So that's pretty high praise from Emma Hayes, who right now is, can really do no wrong. I mean, we're still 2 years out and still a long way to go before the U.S. women have to go and try to win a World Cup, and sort of fix some of the things. The gold medal is a major reason we can feel super confident about the U.S. Women's National Team, because as Emma Hayes did not get a chance to really install her vision for the U.S. women at the Olympics, she knew how to get them to a winning position. So you combined, hey, she knows how to win. Also, she can coach a team up and have them playing good soccer and, feeling good. It wasn't that long ago we thought the world had caught up. And maybe they have. I don't think the Spanish are going to be pushovers or anything. The Dutch are going to be good. England's going to be good. But the U.S. women they're still elite in this game.
Emma Hayes, what a test of professionalism on essentially your first week on the job. You win probably the second highest honor you possibly could, and then you got 3 years before your like real next test. I mean, she's her job isn't really going to be judged until the next World Cup. And like, how many people would keep as sharp and tuned into their job having such a successful like day one on the job and then not having another
Yeah.
one until way in the future? I know when you put a 2-week notice in a job, that's a real test of professionalism. I can't imagine what just like being successful so immediately
Right.
and
Yeah.
then not having your test for a while. But Emma Hayes continues to be outstanding and probably one of the best hires in the national team program.
I
Possibly, we'll
mean,
see.
Let's
We'll get there. We'll
see.
get there.
Let's see
Possibly,
how the
we'll
World Cup.
evaluate.
I know the Olympics matter, but let's wait till the World Cup before we pass that judgment. Want to shout out Pamit 53, who just became a member on Morning Kickaround, a new ultra. Welcome to the family, Pamit.
Ultra,
Make sure you
ultra,
get the make sure you
ultra.
get that Discord link so you can join us in the community as well. All right, go ahead, Rob.
All right, long ball number 2 here for Friday. We are getting into the knockouts for the Gold Cup. United States men's national team take on Costa Rica. 2025 has been the year across all sports where kind of new winners have emerged. Most recently, the Oklahoma City Thunder in basketball. But Costa Rica, if there are candidates for a new winner, you'd imagine Costa Rica as part of them. Do you think that Costa Rica is going to give this version of the men's national team a run for their money?
It'll be a challenge. Yeah, it'll be a challenge on Sunday. I don't expect that the U.S. will run away with that game. I still believe, though, the U.S. will win the game. They'll find a way to win. It could be an ugly, scrappy goal. It could be a set piece. I mean, I think they're capable of creating something from the run of play, but there hasn't been a lot through those 3 group stage matches that really fills you with confidence in that regard. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago, you toss that out the window. That was such a bad Soccer Warriors team. We can't really draw any big conclusions. It was 1 goal on a set piece against Saudi Arabia. It was a couple of goals and good ones against Haiti for the most part, but Costa Rica is better than Haiti. They're more organized than Haiti. They've got Hector Herrera, who knows how to win games in this competition, as their manager, as their coach. So I think it's going to be a test for the United States. I don't think the Ticos get past the Americans, I don't think the Ticos win this thing. I don't think they're good enough for that. And it's worth pointing out that that Costa Rica is going to be missing their leading goal scorer in this tournament, Manfred Ugalde, who's out on yellow card accumulation. So as much as you might be down on the U.S. men's national team, or as much as you might think this Costa Rica team is dangerous, that is a big blow to their chances of winning this game in regulation. Now, maybe Costa Rica decides to bunker. They sit deep. They invite pressure. The U.S. has had problems breaking down teams that sit in and play a low block. And now it's on Mauricio Pochettino. Mauricio Pochettino, I know you're not really, you're not going to be judged by a Gold Cup the year before a World Cup on home soil, but please go earn your $6 million and bring us a Gold Cup. Bring us a Gold Cup.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see. There's a couple different positions that obviously are a big question mark in the pool in general, but definitely in this Gold Cup roster. Like, will Matt Freese retain his starting position? He was a little bit of a surprise selection over Matt Turner in general, and then he had that passing error in that final group stage game. Does that disqualify him, or does Poch kind of double down and just stick with his guy? Same with up front, Ajame. Will he continue to be the man, do you think? Is there any reason to think that they might switch it up against Costa Rica up front?
I do not think that changes are coming in either one of those spots. I think Pochettino has the team that he trusts, at least from this group, or the team he likes the most. He may not be enthralled by every element of it, but I think you can imagine that they will go back after a little bit of rotation against Haiti. They will go back to the team that they used in those first 2 group stage matches from the start. So that means Diego Luna should be in the starting lineup. I believe it means Jack McGlynn will be in the starting lineup. I believe it means that Patrick Gajimeng will retain his spot as center forward, and I do believe that Matt Freese will be in goal. Regardless of the mistake that was made against Haiti, I think that Pochettino likes Freese, sees Freese is in better form, has had a good run of play behind him coming into this tournament, whereas Matt Turner was sitting the bench and sitting the bench and sitting the bench. So I don't expect anything there. I do wonder about left back, though, Rob, because Max Arfston didn't really impress a lot of people in his first 2 appearances in the Gold Cup group stage. And I'm not saying John Tolkien was a lot better against Haiti. In fact, Tolkien was sloppy and gave the ball to Haiti on throw-ins a number of times when he was trying to keep his feet on the chalk on the touchline. So there was sort of like a lack of concentration maybe, but Tolkien did some nice things in that game. He does have a wicked left foot of his own to kind of add to that mix. I don't think Arvston is made for the way Pochettino wants to play. So I wonder about that. But, I think the smart money is probably on Arvston because Pochettino has proven that he likes that player.
Unfortunately for the men's national team program, a big part of the narrative in 2025 is them playing in big cavernous stadiums with not a lot of people in them. So this weekend for this knockout game against Costa Rica, they are playing in Minneapolis. And I wanted to ask, is US Bank Stadium, is that the football stadium or is that the MLS stadium?
No, that's not the MLS stadium. No, that's Allianz Field is the MLS stadium.
Yes.
That's in St. Paul. You should know your Midwestern geography better than me, Rob. I've barely been to Minnesota. So why am I explaining this to you?
That's states away. I got to drive through like 4 or 5 states to get to Minnesota.
I know the Midwest is a big place. It's a huge section of the country.
It's
the
vast.
Midwest.
So I'm really hoping that they can kind of change that narrative. And I mean, I haven't looked at the ticket availability, but in my heart of hearts, I'm hoping that the Midwesterners can fill a NFL-sized stadium to root for the men's national team. You look skeptical at first. Like I said, I don't know my namings of Minnesota-based stadiums, so I was like hopeful for a moment there that maybe it was in the MLS-sized stadium and maybe they get a good atmosphere and like a true home atmosphere. But you're shaking your head. You think it's going to be more of the same, kind of like how it was in Dallas and in LA in the spring?
Yeah, we're going to get 20,000 maybe 25,000. I don't know. I have not seen any reports, and this is just me going on history, going on, the way it's always been. So I don't think that you're going to have a full NFL sized venue with U.S. men's national team fans in the Gold Cup. Rob, with no Pulisic and no McKennie and no Robinson and no Weah, and I could go on.
Well, at some point, we're going to make a video about how to make these summer tournaments better. And definitely one of my leading suggestions for that future video will be playing appropriately sized venues.
Yeah, if only CONCACAF and would listen to you. I want to address Pam at 53, brand new member. Shout out to Pam at 53. Are Costa Rica better than Saudi? I would say yes, but not by a huge margin. I think that they're pretty similar in that regard. I think Saudi Arabia probably is going to defend better, right? Better. I don't know how much better they, in the case of Saudi Arabia, the U.S. game, that was tough to break down that team. I don't think Costa Rica is going to be as disciplined defensively, so there should be some opportunities here, but it'll be a tough one. And then let's go to Angus. Minnesota is in the upper Midwest. Okay, I don't know where's Detroit? Where is Michigan?
It's funny. I call it upper Midwest, but Minnesota's much more upper, so that's hard to say. Just
it's
northern Midwest. I know we get lumped in there just because I call East Coast as anything basically east of Ohio to me. So
yeah, that's probably right though. Like that's probably true. But you get Ohio. People think of Ohio as Midwest. I'm like, well, yeah, but if you consider like the Dakotas Midwest, that's massive. That's so much space.
Yeah, well, it's wild. Ohio used to be the Western frontier, so like it was truly Western, and then it became Midwest when all the rest of the geography became the United States. But what were you going to say?
I said, you know what the Midwest is?
Awesome.
It's young and restless is what the Midwest. Okay, never mind. Let's move on. That probably shouldn't be shouting out that lyric anyway, based on who wrote it. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Fair enough. And let's get another member in this next long ball. Thank you, Pam, for joining during that long ball. Long ball number 3 here on Friday, bringing it back as we do each and every Friday. Morning Kickaround's Fab 4 picks of the weekend. The top 4 games to carve out some time and attention to this weekend on the North American continent. Pick 4 always comes from the chat, so get your games in now. And
tell us your game.
Will get the 4th pick in the Fab 4. So get them in there as we dispense ours. I'll go to you first, radio expert Jason Davis. What do you got for Fab 4?
Yeah, I'm going down the lower leagues a little bit. It's a Jägermeister Cup weekend. Rob, do you know what the Jägermeister Cup is? Are you
I
aware?
I am aware of it this year. The Jägermeister Cup is essentially kind of like a league's cup within USL, right?
That is exactly what it's like a league cup. It's like the EFL Cup in England, only with the professional ranks that exist in the current USL. I was thinking if there was a Red Bull team in the Jägermeister Cup, that would be incredible. Just pointing that out. We do have what is not a derby match. I don't want to call it a derby. I think that would be stretching it. But geographically, we're talking about how big the Midwest is. Let's look down in the southeastern part of our country. We got Charleston, South Carolina, down there on the Atlantic Ocean. Well known for its history, for its culinary delights, things like that. Charleston, South Carolina, and they've got a good soccer team led by our guy Ben Pyramid in the USL Championship, and I think they're doing pretty good in the USL Championship right now. Is Charleston Battery second place in the Eastern Conference, 3 points back of Louisville City. They just come off a win over Phoenix Rising, and they will play in the Jägermeister Cup tomorrow night. South Georgia Tormenta of Statesboro, Georgia. Now, very much in the theme of what we're going to be talking about with Michael Hitchcock and what we're asking our members to help us with, what cities, what towns could be great places for soccer teams. Statesboro, Georgia. Rob, do you know where Statesboro, Georgia is? Did you know?
I know that it's in Georgia, United States version of Georgia, too.
That's right.
I'll sharpen that up.
So it seems it's about 3 hours, a little bit less than 3 hours drive from Charleston. So, and South Georgia Tormenta plays in League One of USL, and Charleston plays in the championship. And that's why this competition is cool, right? It's sort of like an open cup, but just between the USL teams. And we get I'm imagining some Charleston fans will be making the drive to Statesboro, is my point.
Yeah.
So it could be a really cool atmosphere in Statesboro, Georgia for this game. South Georgia's not having a great season in League One. They've been very good in the past. They're not having a great season right now. Again, Charleston is good. I expect the Battery to be heavy favorites, but this is what we want. Like, I want this cross-pollination. I want a town like Statesboro, which has a surprise success story in American soccer for people who don't know where Statesboro is or how big Statesboro is. I want this stuff. Charleston's got that history that goes back to the 90s. Like, this is just cool to me. So I'm picking that game.
All right, so it's on me, a Fab 4 pick number 2. I'm on the hot seat here. In my heart of hearts, of course, Oakland County FC hosting AFC Ann Arbor is where I'll be carving out my time. But for the sake of the bit, for the sake of the show, I am going with what could turn out to be the best atmosphere of the Club World Cup. Two Brazilian sides clash in Philadelphia, of all places. Palmeiras and Botafogo, high noon on Saturday in Philadelphia. The South American fans have really been the spark of a large part of the spark for the Club World Cup in this form in this country, and combining two of the biggest Brazilian teams in one location should be absolutely outstanding.
I mean, I almost wish I was going to be in Philadelphia tomorrow because I
Right?
imagine that is going to be a party. Do they get to like bust out the barbecues and grill? Because Brazilians and the meat, South Americans love their meat. I imagine like that's going to be like, I hope there's like a whole street fair thing happening. I don't know. They've got big parking lots because they're in Philadelphia. All those stadiums are right next to it. You ever been to Philadelphia and seen that sort of stadium complex thing that they got with the hockey basketball venue and the baseball state? Like, all of it's right there. It's going to be incredible. I think that's a great pick. These are the teams that care most about this tournament. At least it feels that way, Rob. I mean, not that the European teams don't want to win it, but for them, this is a little bit more of I would say a little bit more of a distraction than it might be for the Brazilian teams who are,
Main
really,
eventing this.
really, yeah, really, really engaged in this thing. So that's a great pick.
Yeah, just for context, currently in the Brazilian league, Palmeiras is in 4th and Botafogo in 8th. And to get to this stage, Botafogo beat Sounders, beat PSG, and then fell to Atletico Madrid in that third game, which ultimately didn't hurt them. And then Palmeiras 0-0 with Porto, beat Al Ahly 2-0, and then tied with Inter Miami, which we've highlighted before, which was an exciting game.
I do wonder about the numbers for that game that you picked, because last night, Real Madrid in Philadelphia, I think they got 69,000 plus for that Real Madrid game in the Club World Cup last night. I think that's like the 6th highest attendance for a soccer match in Philadelphia. So, we talked about this tournament and some of the problems with it, Rob, and the fact that some of these games have happened in venues that do not fit the draw that the teams present. But I think it's pretty clear that if you put big teams in these NFL buildings, you will get people to show up. So and I don't know, Palmeiras and Botafogo, again, the combination, like is this like exponential explosion of fandom because they're two Brazilian teams, or are we going to see like 30,000? I honestly don't know.
We shall see tomorrow at noon in Philadelphia. So Fab Four pick number 3 will welcome in producer Jenny to throw her pick in the mix. What is the third in today's Fab Four, Jenny?
Third game in today's Fab Four is going to be, we're going to go to MLS for this one. The closer for the weekend, it's going to be LAFC against the Vancouver Whitecaps. That's Sunday at 9:30, and I continue to be fascinated by this Vancouver Whitecaps team. Incredibly good until you get to an international window when they lose some of their best players, namely like you got Brian Wright and Sebastian Berhalter that are no longer with the team right now because they're with the U.S. national team, and they've lost their last 2 games. I don't know if any of you guys saw that game against San Diego on Wednesday night, but they looked hapless offensively, and their defense even didn't look great. And San Diego just kind of kicked them. We talked about a little bit with Ilowski's 4 goals on he had a very good game for San Diego. And LAFC, are they going to be a little exhausted coming off the Club World Cup? They've had quite the jaunt across the country over the past week and a half or so. And so it's going to be a battle of teams that are kind of weakened because of non-MLS commitments. And I'm curious to see what happens on Sunday night in LAFC.
Adding a little bit of spice to that is that BBC News article you sent over this morning, Jason.
Yeah, the story is, so we know that Steve Cherundolo intends to leave LAFC, and he said at the end of the season. But I think that people who know Steve and people who understand his background imagine it's very possible that Steve Cherundolo exits before the end of the season if something opens up for him back in Germany, where he spent his entire playing career and where his family is from. His wife and his kids identify as German, and they've been in the U.S. now as he's followed this coaching path. And the story is that LAFC are kicking the tires on Ange Postecoglou, which, you can argue about whether that's a big step down for Ange and whether he deserves something maybe somewhere else in England or in Europe after what happened at Tottenham. But I'd pay good money to see Ange Postecoglou coach in Major League Soccer, especially with the way he plays. This could be fascinating.
That would be the little bit of spice that would really make them exciting. It seemed like Cherundolo kind of put flat tires on a fast car compared to the iteration of Bob Bradley. I would love to see LAFC return to that kind of swashbuckling and exciting style that we saw when they were breaking the MLS regular season record for wins and whatnot. So that would be exciting if that happened. And just, I think you could get away with it with the way Major League Soccer plays defense as well. I think he wouldn't quite get punished quite as much as he was this year in the Premier League. Switching over to the MK Ultras pick for the 4th game of the weekend. Thank you, Jenny. In the chat, we got Andrew. He's throwing out Crew Philly as well. That one could be an interesting pick. PSG versus Miami or
Columbus and Philly. No, that's Columbus. That's Pamit using COL for Columbus. I think PSG Miami deserves a little bit of attention. We've had people in our comments on Morning Kickaround after we talked about the Club World Cup say, if I was rich, I can't remember whose comment this was, my apologies. If I was rich, I would drop $1,000 on Miami beating PSG. And I am shocked by that. I am shocked. I look, is it possible it's more competitive than a lot of people imagine? Sure. I think it's possible. It's also possible that PSG wins that game 5-6-0. I think that's possible too, Rob. I think, this game there are some games where like the range of possibilities is very small and you kind of go in knowing like, this is what kind of game we're going to get. I think the range of possibilities in this game is very wide and it's going to be odd. Now, it's also worth pointing out, we talked about the game in Philadelphia. That's noon. We're kicking off at noon, Rob. What are we doing in the summertime kicking off at noon? I don't understand why we're doing that. And that's going to be a factor here for Palmeiras and Botafogo in that one in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do Brazilian games, like Brazilian league games, do they usually play in the evenings? Or are they used to like the sweltering heat when they play? They're certainly going to be tested on Saturday. So the Fab Four of the weekend, the last weekend in June 2025, LAFC versus Vancouver, Palmeiras versus Botafogo, South Georgia versus Charleston, and PSG versus Miami. Thank you for everyone in the chat getting into the mix there. Everyone enjoy your soccer wherever you take it in. If you haven't become a subscriber and you're watching this now, do so now. Just hit the button. Doesn't cost you a darn thing, and it helps this show exponentially. If you want to take your support a step further, $3.99 a month gets you an MK Ultra membership, access to the Discord, early access to videos, on-screen commenting prioritized for you, and much, much more. So hit that membership button if you're able to. You can find us on social media, write us an email, and support in any which way you can. Word of mouth, excellent, all those things. We got a great segment on the way. We are going to talk to one of the soccer entrepreneurs leading the way in this country, and we want, for the final segment, suggestions of where this man should put a team next. But we're going to come right back in just a moment with Soccer Disruptors with Michael Hitchcock here on Morning Kickaround. Hello, this is Soccer Disruptors on Morning Kickaround. Next up, we are happy to welcome the owner of a sports management company called Playbook Management International, who's worked with over 100 professional soccer teams, leagues, venues, and events all over the world, including 20 soccer teams, and most recently has been filling up summer soccer stadiums across the country, including 12,000 fans in Annapolis, Maryland. Happy to be joined by Michael Hitchcock. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround, sir.
Hey guys, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for everything you guys do to promote the beautiful game.
I would definitely want to say the same to you. I mean, the reason to bring you on the show is because we obviously, like everybody else, took note of the big numbers that you're getting for some of these teams, like in Annapolis and McKinney, Texas. So I think, Hitch, the first thing to ask you is, what are you doing? I mean, can you give us kind of a remedial thumbnail sketch of what Playbook is about, what you're about in investing in these clubs and being part of sort of, the game in the United States, but just the idea of sort of these smaller clubs and building them up?
Yeah, so I've been in the soccer management business for almost 30 years now, which I jokingly say is why I look the way I look. I've been selling soccer in this country for close to 30 years, and love the game, love what the game means to communities, and love the opportunity it provides people, whether it's players, coaches, executives, or supporters. And so it is the beautiful game for a reason, and not just because of what it does on the field, but for me, more so what it means in communities and off the field. And so it's always been my passion. I'm lucky enough to be able to have a career working in my passion. And we just, we're doing everything we can to grow the game in communities all over the country. And so we try to identify communities that we either feel are underserved from a soccer standpoint, or just have the potential to have a lower division club really provide those passionate supporters a team to support that's got their town on their crest, right? And an opportunity to not have to drive an hour and a half to go see a major league soccer game, although they will do that on occasion, but support high level lower division soccer in their front or backyard. And what we have found is there's a big market for that. And so our philosophy is make soccer cool, make soccer fun. When you do that, people want to support it. And so, as we all know, we're entering the biggest growth stage in the history of the game in this country, leading up to the 2026 World Cup. And as y'all have been talking about this morning, is the summer of soccer is pretty incredible, right? With all the different things happening at so many different levels around this country. And so for us, what we do is we take that and we just make it hyper local. And so we create brands that really connect with the communities of which these clubs are members. We take a community first approach where we invest in giving to the community before we expect them to give back. And And where I think we're probably a little bit different and unique than a lot of clubs at this level is because we own a sports management company that gets hired by other teams at all levels in the spectrum to help them out. We've got resources that we can bring to our lower division clubs that probably doesn't fit the business model for teams at this level. And so that allows us to run them at a little bit of a different level, and not being disrespectful to anyone out there. There's incredible clubs doing amazing things with passionate owners. But we've got some additional resources, and what we do is we take a year runway leading up to kicking a ball, and I think a lot of people discount the value of that. And so we're working on this thing for 6 months before we even announce we're bringing a team, and then we take a year runway to connect with the community, to make those meaningful connections. And what we find is when you take that sort of hand-to-hand approach and connect with fans, they want to support you. They want to be a part of it, and they feel the ownership in the club, which is what you find all over the world, right? People who are, they're fans, but they're truly stakeholders in the club that for generations their family's been supporting.
You kind of touched on it there a little bit. One of my biggest questions, I'm an ardent servant of my local USLT team for 7 or 8 years now. And is a lot of the success, you answered it a little bit, like, do you scout the location of a town that maybe doesn't have any other like live entertainment? Or is it what you're doing to connect to the community in that year run in? Like, what would you attribute most of that kind of like activation of those communities? Was it selection ahead of time, or what you're doing on the ground in that run-in?
I think it's what you're doing on the ground. I mean, what we have found is smaller markets where you have less competition during that 3 month sort of summer window season, which is where the USL2, NPSL, the League for Clubs plays for the most part, WPSL, W League, and that's really the niche we've identified that we're having a lot of success with. Is that it's about what you're doing in the community. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be real. And you're doing it for all the right reasons. And that doesn't mean you're doing it for the money. You're doing it to grow the game. And when that happens, the money can follow, right? You can have success. And then you just capital reinvest and keep growing year over year. So we've got a club in Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock, Texas, if you don't know where it is 5 hours west of Dallas, Fort Worth. Not a traditional soccer market. Texas Tech University is there. So it's a big sports community. And, when some of our first meetings out in Lubbock 4.5 years ago, before we launched the team, people were asking us how many players were on a soccer field. Like, there wasn't this savvy soccer market like you have in Annapolis, Maryland. But what we built was something that was really meaningful and connected to the community. And the team's called the Lubbock Matadors. Matadors was the original name of Texas Tech back in the day, but before they rebranded to Red Raiders. And we have created a soccer culture there. And I was there just a couple of weeks ago for a midweek game, and we had 4,207 fans at a midweek game in Lubbock, Texas. And to me, even more important than the number of fans was the passion. And if you would have closed your eyes between the horns, the drums, the chants, the smoke from the flares, you would have thought you were in an international soccer match. And so, there is a way to build a soccer culture in non-traditional soccer markets. And in Lubbock, when Texas Tech baseball ends, you got 3 months until Texas Tech football begins. Now, if we were competing with Texas Tech football, it might be a different ballgame, right? But we're fulfilling a need for entertainment, and people find out that soccer's pretty cool, and they connect with the players, who are these very talented, passionate young men who, by the way, do hundreds of player appearances in the community, kicking and reading programs at the library. They're out in the schools when the schools are in session, doing PE, speaking to the kids. They do free clinics. They go to the Boys and Girls Club centers every Monday to, just hang out with the kids and mentor them and play all sports, and including soccer. So when you do those things, people want to support you and they want to be a part of it. And, once again, soccer, selling it, 29 years ago is very different than it is today. And then we've got some markets like Annapolis, Maryland, that is a soccer savvy market. It's 45 minutes from Baltimore. It's 45 minutes from Washington, D.C. and, DC United. And we had 12,853 fans at our home opener. And that's like, I think that weekend, if I looked at it correctly, out of the 13 Major League Soccer games, we would have been number 10 in attendance that weekend, right? And I think outside of Major League Soccer, it was, at that time at least, the second biggest attendance to Oakland Roots' big game at the Oakland Coliseum earlier in the year. So, but that is all, you go there, there's 5,000 people tailgating for 4 hours before the game. People will bring a boat, put a DJ on the deck. Like, I mean, it's an event, right? And so when you create that sort of culture, and then you've got these really talented young men and women. We launched a women's team there that's doing really well as well. And afterwards, those players sign autographs for an hour. That's what parents want. That's what kids want. That's what companies want to see, is someone who's really literally using the world's most popular game to give back to their community.
Hitch, the number in Annapolis and us kind of learning about what you've been doing and getting a little bit deeper understanding of how successful some of these teams have been got us thinking, because this is what American soccer fans do. Like we don't just go, oh, that's great, there's a team in Annapolis that's drawing 12,000. We go, what else is possible? And how do we get to a place where every decent sized town in America has a team so we can feel like England or Italy or France or whatever, and then of course link them all together, do pro rel and all that stuff. So we had that question of, is this a situation where a team like Annapolis is showing that there's professional soccer possibilities in there? So I want to know what your philosophy is on that, and whether this always has to have this end game of building to a professional outfit, or if these semi-pro and USL2 and these kind of teams are kind of the point. Like, it doesn't have to be more than that necessarily.
Yeah, I would say if you go to a McKinney Chupacabras game, and we had a game on Thursday night going head to head with the FC Dallas home game, and FC Dallas is 15 miles down the road from where we are in historic McKinney. We sold 3,600 tickets. We had unbelievable weather that hit right before gates were going to open. Just those crazy Texas summer storms. Game was delayed over 90 minutes, and we still had over 2,000 fans stick around to cheer on their hometown team. That tells you that they care, right? They weren't at the FC Dallas game. They feel a connection to their hometown team, and they stuck through some pretty adverse conditions on a midweek, and that to me was a really, really interesting, because we hadn't experienced something like that in a major market where there's no shortage of things to do here, and teams to support at all levels, soccer and other. And so I think that was an interesting tell that people, when they care about it, they care about it, right? And so for me, the question is going to be, I do think promotion relegations coming to America, which I think will be amazing. I recently sold my National League North team in England, so we had an investment in English lower division soccer as a way of really learning the culture of the game, where the game was invented. And to your point, I've always said, for soccer to become the sport in America, for us to truly become a soccer nation, MLS has to keep doing the things they're doing. Everyone certainly is drafting off them. We need the U.S. men's national team to take it to the next level and really capitalize on this World Cup. But every town in America needs to have a pro or semi-pro team run at a very high level, right? So for the players, that becomes their pro soccer experience. For the fans, they care about that as much as the bigger team that might be in the city next to them. So I think all of those possibilities are there, and we can look like England, where every town, regardless of size, has a pro or semi-pro or high-level amateur team in the 11 division pyramid, right? And can promote or relegate depending on the meritocracy on the field. And so that's coming in the U.S. And so for us, we want to do everything we can. And I've worked for some great visionary leaders in my career, and they always say it's crazy until it works, then it's visionary, right? So we invest in some markets, and they say, "What are you doing? That's crazy." And then when it works, they're like, "Well, I knew it was going to work." Of course. What a no-brainer, and that's just the nature of people. But we just recently launched a team last week in Lynchburg, Virginia, which we think is a really interesting market in the Blue Ridge Mountains. As part of that, we launched a campaign where we have 6 brands that we've created that the community gets to vote for. They get to select the brand, which incorporates the colors and the name of the team. And we've got 700 people that have voted in a week, online and in person. And we're at the farmers markets and the breweries and the cool popular bars. And we have ballot boxes with the ballots set up at all the cool businesses and the soccer locations in town. And that's a year out, right? We're a year out from kicking a ball, but you put the investment in then, we're going to get, a lot of people in Lynchburg to feel connected to this club, and now it becomes theirs, whether it's their team or not. They feel a connection from the very beginning, and then there's a playbook of how we, roll it out and go to market and build the club from there. So I think there's a lot of interesting markets out there that don't currently have a team. There's some markets that probably have a team, but it's more about someone who's successful at business, passionate about soccer, but just opens the gates and rolls the ball out. And we've all seen those clubs that it's friends and family that are there. We don't run it that way. I mean, we run it where, the market will tell you how big it's supposed to be. I think, going back to your original question, some of these teams have the potential to go to the next level, and play a longer season. But the nice thing is the market's telling us that, right? We're not falling behind and getting ahead of our skis, as we say, trying to guess, where should this team be in the marketplace. The fans are going to tell you that. The sponsors are going to tell you that. And then with Pro Rel, you can invest accordingly and hopefully win some games and move up.
You mentioned there one of the biggest things that you found success with is making those community connections and touch points. I was curious to ask you, what's the sort of community outreach and touch point that has most consistently worked in different places? And then did that also translate when you made those sort of efforts with your own overseas teams?
Yeah, so the community outreach is all inclusive. I mean, we literally take the approach of it's not like we're just marketing and connecting with the soccer community. We're working with all the soccer associations, the soccer clubs. We're on the sidelines with pop up shops. We're doing free clinics. When we do our voting campaigns, we're literally going to be everywhere in the community, whether it's a farmers market, a youth soccer tournament, a watch party for a club World Cup match, like we're there, right? And that's the investment piece. It's investing in the people, and it's investing in getting out into the community. And I always use the description of it's like throwing out a boomerang, and you sure as heck hope it comes back, right? Because you're putting a lot of money on that boomerang, and you're making the promotion, and there's no crystal ball in what it's going to become. But the reality is, it's worked everywhere. So I think that model of outreach to community works. So you're working with the city leadership, you're working with county, you're working with school district, you're working with soccer clubs, you're working with the business associations, all the popular businesses. So one of our focuses is always partner with the top local brewery, partner with the top local coffee shop or shops if they own more than one. And those are two of the areas that have the greatest sphere of influence for soccer fans. And so there's a kindred spirit when it comes to great craft beer, local, and great local coffee that if you can get them involved, and we do in all of our markets, and often we'll have a co-branded beer with that brewery. Most of our teams have the brewery on the front of the jersey, so that's our co-branded front of the jersey. They're usually the coolest business owners in town and have this really cool sphere of influence. But the coffee shop owners are up there with them, right? So you find the cool people in the market, and you partner with them and get them involved and engaged, and to become a part of the team.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, those of us who have been around soccer in America for a while know that the craft brewery business and soccer, they coincide. I remember doing a show in Detroit, actually. They took me
Yeah.
out to a craft brewery. Hitch, the last thing I want to ask you, as I'm looking down your list, and okay, Annapolis Blues. I know there's that's a blue crab reference for Maryland. You've got the Chupacabras shirt on right now. You've mentioned Lubbock and the Matadors. The imaging, the branding for these teams. I'm curious if you could give us a little bit of a thought on that, because we live in this era where, especially at the top level, teams are popping up or being added to leagues, and it's like blah 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 AFC, and we're not getting anything unique and sort of identifying to the community in terms of the name of the club. You've chosen to go in a different direction in most cases. Why is that?
Yeah, so for me, branding is mission critical to success. I feel especially at the lower division level, it's got to be relevant to the community. It's got to be connected, and so we start with the process where we get key stakeholders in the market, and we call it the friends and family focus group. And we'll start with just identifying lots of cool names and imagery, things that we all feel would or the community feels is representative of the community and something that the community can connect with, and then we'll narrow it down to 4 to 6, and often we'll do this brand development, business development, database development campaign where we'll go out into the community and let the community choose it. And I have to share with you, most times my favorite name doesn't win, so we stay true to the competition. And so Chupacabras was my favorite name, so I'm glad that one won and has done unbelievably well. But when you have something that's cool and it's relevant, and that's what the community wants, uh, you sell lots of merchandise. Lots of people are wearing the gear, and so we at the Blues home opener. Once again, 12,853 fans. We were entertaining some key soccer leaders from around the country because we wanted them to experience what's happening at lower division soccer, and they were blown away with probably 10,000 people were wearing a Blues jersey or some item before the match out at the tailgate party, and that's because it's cool and they voted for it and they wanted it and it represents the community. So yeah, so for me, the branding is really important. We view merchandise as marketing that people pay you for. So make sure it's cool looking stuff. A lot of our teams partner with Puma. Puma's very fashionable. It's where football meets fashion. That's very strategic. But our branding, whether it's the primary logo, the word marks, the imagery, we own a branding agency. We went and partnered with a marketing agency, and it's called Tifo Branding. We just do soccer branding. So we have our own branding agency that, once again, is resource that a lot of teams at this level wouldn't have, that helps us just create really cool stuff and know what's popular and what's coming and sort of finger on the pulse. But yeah, having it hyper local is to us probably the most important thing.
There's so much to cover there. Thank you so much for all that insight. I want to say thank you to Homeless Shoe for becoming a new member during this segment. But I wanted to ask, you've got so many teams in action. You have, I think, 20 across all the levels. The segment leading into this was the Fab Four of the weekend. You could probably have a Fab Four of your own. What are you keeping your eye on in your sphere of influence this weekend?
You got to pick one. You're going to make this man pick between his kids? Like, that feels wrong, Rob.
Maybe two of them are playing each other. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one for sure. It's exactly like your children, and as a father myself, and you don't have a favorite. You love them all for different reasons. I would say this weekend, our team Lubbock is traveling to Oklahoma City. If they win, they have a chance to secure home field advantage in the playoffs. That means I think we get 7,000 fans in a rally town like Lubbock. It's almost Lubbock versus all y'all, right? So when you get to playoffs, it's a big deal. I mean, we witnessed that with Texas Tech women's softball. That community, they were the biggest softball fans in the world during that World Series run. So big game for Lubbock. In Boone, we have a team called Appalachian FC, which is the Bigfoot brand. They've got a really big home game this weekend against Bristol. So it was fan appreciation night, and then our chief marketing officer, Bigfoot, came in and turned it into Squatch appreciation night. So that's always fun with a lot of cool promotions with Mass General Store. So those are two big ones. We got a big doubleheader in Annapolis with the men's and the women's team. Women just secured home field advantage in the playoffs. So it'll be a big end of year sort of celebration for them because they won the division championship in their expansion year. And then the men are battling for a playoff spot in their first season in USL2. So and many others are playing this weekend. So yeah, we'll be tuned in and flipping between all the games and watching them all.
Well, Michael Hitchcock, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround, giving us kind of a breakdown on all the exciting news and clubs across this country. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us here on Morning Kickaround.
We need like a documentary. We need a camera crew to follow Hitch so we can get a really behind the scenes of how this is all happening. This is incredible to me. It's like a meme. You're like doing math in your head. I can't even fathom. Hitch, thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate having us on. And once again, thanks for everything you do for the game. And if you guys ever want to partner on a market, let's find a market and work together. And let's maybe we do document that and share the story. It's fascinating. It's a lot of hard work. It's like anything else. Our philosophy is good people, good plan, good execution. You get good people involved. We've been doing this long enough and have the gray hairs. We know how to build the plan, and then you create a culture to execute the plan and build something really fun for the community. So that's the model.
We'll keep it locked in because we are going to tap into the MK Ultras on our next segment. We are going to we are asking, what city, what market, what area of this country should Hitchcock's group delve into next? He's found success in many places, getting lots of people passionate and energized for the game at the summer league level. So throw your suggestions into the box. We're going to get a quick sip of water and come right back with our final segment of the week here on Morning Kickaround. The big question here on Morning Kickaround, wrapping up our week on the show. I'm Robert. He's Jason. We just had Hitch on from PMI. He's found success getting butts in seats at a huge level in summer league soccer. So we're asking you, the MK Ultras, the viewers, where should he plop a team down next? Where should he investigate? Where can he invigorate the population to become soccer supporters?
We are absolutely going to prioritize our MK Ultras who have suggested some markets, some towns, some places for teams that Hitch or somebody like Hitch might be interested in bringing soccer to, or could be interested, could be intrigued by. We'll start with Chris Sau. He says Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which I don't know a lot about. Obviously, the capital of Louisiana. Chris also goes on to say that there was a team there, even with no promotion, no connection, basically nothing online, and horrible marketing. Parish AC was still about to get multiple hundreds out to multiple games. There's obviously an appetite. So it does feel like maybe Baton Rouge, Louisiana is a place. I think, Rob, you and I talked about New Orleans down the road from Baton Rouge as a potential USL market, but that seems to be dead in the water, right? That whole thing kind of fell apart. So, I mean, New Orleans is a much bigger city that feels like it needs something. I think there's a team called the Jesters. Are they still operating? Maybe Chris can tell me if there's the New Orleans Jesters are still operating in New Orleans. I believe that is it's an MPSL team. So, New Orleans has a team in the MPSL. Maybe Baton Rouge should get one as well. Then we could have a little rivalry. What do you think about Baton Rouge?
I like that idea. And like you said, there's been some teasing and some foreshadowing of possibly a pro team coming to Louisiana, but obviously nothing has come to bear fruit so far. So definitely that seems like an under serviced part of the country when it comes to soccer at higher levels, even at the summer soccer level that we were specifically talking about with Hitch.
What I like doing, what I like about this question, and it's very open-ended, like let's acknowledge that it's very open-ended. What I like about it is we don't have to do that thing that we sometimes do with MLS teams or USL Championship when we're talking about the first division. If USL launches a first division, you've got to meet certain population requirements. Literally any town. I mean, literally any town. Now, look, the bigger the population, the more likely it is you're going to get, decent numbers for games. But Annapolis, Maryland's not a big place. Capital of Maryland, not a big place. And they get 12,000 out for a summer league game. And they do the double headers and the women's team and all that. Who cares what the population of Baton Rouge, Louisiana is? They should be able to get 4 or 5 or 6,000 people out to support their team. If you do it right, if you make it as Hitch talked about, if you connect to the community, you do the work, you find ways to make it feel like theirs. That is so important here. And I think that our member Mike Thomas is the one that said that, teams that sort of cut corners or don't put in the work. Here it is. The worst thing soccer teams in this country do is forcing it. Now, obviously that's in the eye of the beholder what forcing it means. But in this case, we're talking about not doing that means being connected to the community, not just saying, well, I got the money and I got an idea and here's Baton Rouge FC. That might not be the thing that Baton Rouge connects with. Also, Ryan, a member, shout out to Ryan MK Ultra, Billings, Montana, which, big sky country. Maybe we need more soccer up there. Billings has 120,000 people in it. That sounds like the right kind of town.
I know that Montana supports Mizzou football pretty big time, and those games in Missoula.
Missoula is the town. Yeah. Mizzou is the University of Missouri. So be careful.
Word salad there. But that's a great football town. So that's Billings adjacent.
Well, and look, let's go back to what Hitch said about Lubbock, right? Lubbock is Texas Tech University. You've got a baseball team, a softball team that are very successful in Lubbock. At the college level, people will go out and support that, identifying with their town, identifying with the local university. And then when Texas Tech football comes around, that's going to dominate. It's Texas. It's going to dominate conversation. It's going to eat up all the dollars and all the attention. But you have that window in the summer when school is out and there's no college sports happening. And I imagine in a place, where there is a college, there is a town that kind of rallies around that in the summer in particular, that might be the kind of place to launch a team like this. So I think that's I'm not saying that it lays over directly every single time. I also point out that Annapolis is the home of the Naval Academy. So they've got that same kind of dynamic. So, you do maybe college towns like that, not necessarily big ones. We're talking about Columbus. They've got an MLS team. We're talking about some of these smaller ones that, mid-major kind of levels where this could be massive. This could be successful.
Yeah, that's a good point, is kind of like working within populations that are already there in somewhat of an organized structure. Some of the biggest teams overseas, they came from within factories or from within certain subgroups that kind of already had a populace with similar goals and interests, and they activated them. So yeah, a college town or a naval academy or something like that seems to make sense. An interesting suggestion from Mike as well. Bethlehem, a Bethlehem resurgence that might have a little bit of baggage because that's a historic team.
Yeah. There was that, obviously, the Philadelphia Union launched their reserve team in Bethlehem as the Bethlehem Steel, trading on the old name. Then I think basically it became too expensive for them to operate that team in Bethlehem, and then obviously they just brought it into under the Philadelphia Union umbrella, and I think now it's just Philadelphia Union 2. Obviously, that Lehigh Valley area, I don't know a ton about it. I'm sure Mike could give us some insight. So there is that. He also says Delco needs a team. We need a Delco branded team. Even though the Union are technically in that area, he says there'll be a branding there. More details on Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge City of over 200,000, same as McKinney. Their parish EBR has about 450K. Plenty of people. Parish, by the way, if you don't know, is the county. Louisiana has parishes. They don't have counties. I know that from having lived in Louisiana as a kid. It's kind of a weird thing.
I knew that from True Detective.
You knew that from True Detective. Well, there you go. Teaching people about Louisiana. This is important. Not a MK Ultra, but I'm going to throw it in here in a way. Don't see them as markets, but communities that are ready to go mad for their communities clubs. That's exactly right. Now, I do think that, we can get wrapped up in language and get overly precious about don't use that kind of language, marketing languages. You can use marketing languages in marketing settings. In a meeting among marketers, use that marketing language. But when you go out into the community, don't say, this is a great market. Say, this is a great community. That is what sells that idea that this is about the community, not about somebody trying to come in, carpetbagging, making money, that kind of stuff. Lawrence, Kansas, another college town, another possibility. Angus, who is an MK Ultra. Now, again, no one's saying that this is the trick, like just pick a college town and it works. I'm simply saying that if you want something that kind of falls into the same slot as an Annapolis or some of these other places, it might be that, like a Lubbock. But there's got to be other towns that aren't necessarily college towns. And that thing we talked about with Hitch about becoming professional, I don't know that you're like, let's not start a team here because it'll be really difficult to go pro one day. Like, you should start the team anyway if you think it can be successful in the summer months. But there will be places where that lift to professional soccer might be more difficult because you are dealing with limited oxygen with a big college program or something that is extremely popular that the town has already been rallying around for 60, 80, 100 years.
Looking at kind of some like population of areas that don't have like major teams in them that kind of look like they'd be interesting is one that kind of hits is Fresno, California. They have Fresno State Bulldogs. They have a big population there.
Fresno has been twice around on pro teams in recent years. I'm just going to point that out. Now, maybe it's not pro that needs to happen in Fresno, but Fresno's been around twice on pro teams. Now, the team that was in Fresno is Monterey Bay. So, Fresno's a big, that's actually a decent sized town. Everybody knows Fresno. They obviously have a big college football program in Fresno State. But I think, so to me, what's fun about this, and again, we are just kind of like throwing darts. We're not, I'm not getting into like, well, let's do the research. We're not doing that right now. But, you look at we could do that later, obviously. But you look at some of this stuff and you're like, oh, maybe Grand Junction, Colorado is a place. Just a random name, like just a random town that feels like someplace that maybe a team like this, like a McKinney Chupacabras or a Lubbock Matadors or an Annapolis Blues could be successful. I'm in Northern Virginia, and there are obviously DC United is 15 minutes away from my house. But if you put a team, and also we have Loudoun United, which is an hour away from my house in the exurbs. But if you found a market to put a team in this area that isn't necessarily, they can create something within a little pocket it's not like you're competing with DC United. If you're doing short season and you sell it right, maybe you can get 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 people out to watch these teams. And there are lots of high amateur teams in the area, but this is sort of like that sort of like extra level that Hitch has brought to it.
Just another kind of interesting point, just for some context, Villarreal in Spain, over 25 years in first division, has a population of 45,000. So that's the community rather than the market speaking for itself there. There's examples across the globe, really, of small towns.
So what's interesting with that one, you have to contextualize it. Obviously, football in Spain, different than soccer in America, and the history of that, right? The history of Villarreal having a team the long-standing nature of that club in that community, before television, before all the things that have distracted us, that team was already established. And so when you think about them now, they are such an integral part of the identity of that community in that area that it's not apples to apples. If you're going, well, we can put a team in a 45,000 population city in this country and it'd be the same thing. Obviously, that's not the case, but that's why it's so important to what Hitch was saying about figuring out ways to connect with the community that make people feel like this isn't just a business that's opening, right? It's not just another Dunkin' Donuts. Like, it is something that wraps around the community and feels connected to the identity, which is why I asked about branding, Rob. And, that's the fun part is like, oh, put a team in this town and name it this thing that relates directly to the history of that place. The culture.
Yeah, the Appalachian team, the Bigfoot team that he mentioned, that's branding that stuck with me. I mean, I've never seen a single game, but I know exactly what that team's branding looks like. And that's
Do you know where Boone, North Carolina is, Rob? Do you have any idea where Boone, North Carolina is?
I'm assuming it's in a very rural area in North Carolina.
It is basically, I would say it's halfway between Greensboro and Knoxville. You could, if you were driving from one to the other. It is, yeah, it's directly sort of south of the Virginia border. I don't know how long that drive would be, maybe an hour or something. Like, it's not, nobody goes, oh, you know what would be a great place for a soccer team? Usually Boone, North Carolina, right? That's not, but it's obviously been good for Hitch, and the branding has been a major part of this. And they've got, they do have things there. And maybe so much of this story is about, hey, we've got towns and places in America that it would just be fun to learn about because now they've got a soccer team.
Great episode, great conversation, lots of food for thought here on our Friday edition of Morning Kickaround. Thank you to Hitch for joining us and sharing some knowledge and getting us excited about the growth of these clubs scattered across the country. Keep the conversation going in the comments. Throw more suggestions into the comments of where you'd want to see a team. Is your town one of the places that might benefit our community, that might rally around a new team? Thank you to our new members, 2 new members during the live show today, Pamit and a homeless shoe. Thank you for becoming an MK Ultra. How do they get the link to become part of our Discord there, Jason?
I will post it on the channel for anybody who doesn't have it. I think I asked if anybody needs it, but I will post it. If you don't know Discord, the link changes every so often. It's just a security element. So if you're not in the Discord and you're a member, I will do a post today on the channel just for members, and you'll be able to see it and click on it and join the Discord and become part of the MK Ultras community over there.
Yeah, love the conversations that are going over there. They got local ones, we got Major League Soccer ones, we got USL one, and in a general thread over there, lots of people throwing what they're going for the weekend, their takes on the national team games, lots of great American soccer conversation having in the Morning Kickaround Discord channel. So I'd say almost that in its own right, worth the membership, but you also get priority commenting on live shows. You get early access to videos and bonus content. So lots of benefits for that $3.99 MK Ultra membership. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We will be back on Monday. And until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.